they would tell stories. They got to the elevator. People I know in 22 truck and 25 trucks. So the two groups get to the elevator. Who's got the elevator, who's got the stairs? And they decided the one who took the elevator died, the one who took the stairs lived. And everybody know you get to a hall, and people would tell the story of their group. One made a left, one made a right. So I have heard thousands of stories. Many people there. Personally know 100 people died. So it was all very interesting and all facts. So all this was completely new. Completely new. No conspiracy, just the buildings fell and everybody just worried about the death and trying to think how things could be thing. And all the reports I ever heard was for communications, the radios and stuff like that, which is strictly firematic information. You know, just what could we do, what could we do better? So, very interesting. Oh, an interesting fact, when you were talking about fires, buildings built in New York City have the strictest fire code in the United States. When they built the World Trade Center, in order to, the constructor or the contractor likes to have the easiest code to make it easier. So because it was a tri-state building, they could use other code and federal code, so it wasn't as strict as New York City code. That's why the engineers would be talking about different fire, things like that. Roosevelt Island was another building built because it was federal money. They said, well, since the federal people made it 40% paid 40% of money, we can use 40% of their code and 60% of their others. So there's lots of information that you never know that went, and things that went in different buildings.
One thing that I heard.
To confirm a fact you said about elevators, I've heard people say that when the people came down about the fire in the elevator.
Oh, the fire came down through the elevator shaft.
Well, there's fire in the elevator. I heard people say there was fire in the elevator. So that would be an interesting thing for you to pursue.
Okay.
Did the fire come down or did the fire go up?
Oh. And these are reports that you heard personally?
I heard personally people talking about when the elevator came down, people came out and they were on fire and stuff like that.
And this was, well, obviously before the collapse and after the
Yes,
collapse.
these are people who these are firemen who got there and the elevators came down and people on fire and stuff. And they talked about fire with the elevators. But the elevators were still working after the planes hit, because I know people who got into elevators. You know, the people who are supposed to come downstairs, that's just a thing. And the elevators there, have you studied the elevators how they had the sky lobbies and stuff?
No.
Because when you take the elevators would only go so far, and then you go out and you walk to the next level, so they could have elevators on top of elevators.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information about the elevators. If you were interested in elevators, you would have to pursue to find how the elevators went and who did it and things, how did things along. It was an interesting elevator system.
Okay.
And it was a very strange building. I worked in the firehouse in the 90s across the street, so the people went there all the time because they'd have alarms. If I worked there one day, you probably went there 6 times. And they had metal security and stuff like that, you know, like when you go to the movie theater or the
Metal
airport.
detector, yeah.
They had it in the 90s. So they had it before. You had to go through, and there was a security guard there. But since I was a fireman, had been there 3 times already, he knew who I was, you know, and you would just walk around and laugh. So it was a place that was very interesting.
Back to the codes. I understand that World Trade Center 7 was built 5 times stronger than required by code.
I have no idea. No idea about that. Be interesting to find out.
I'm trying to remember what video I saw that in, if it was in Loose Change or if it was in this video, or it may have been in Blueprint for Truth. If you've not seen Blueprint for Truth.
I haven't seen any of this.
Well, this DVD here is the endorsement for the science that architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth present.
If you're looking for information, you would find out from the fire department and find out people who would have their cards and would inspect it and know a lot about the building. And you could find out who owned it, who paid for it, then find out about the code. It was built by city code.
Right.
And when it was built.
This is probably something you can't answer, but Larry Silverstein did an interview on BBC, and he said that he was talking to the fire marshal, and the fire marshal told him that he did not think they would be able to contain the fire. Larry Silverstein said, well, we've had so much loss of life. Maybe the best thing to do is to pull it. And then Larry Silverstein went on to say that the fire marshal made, or he said they made the decision to pull the building, and then we watched it collapse.
Was Larry Silverstein a fire marshal?
Larry Silverstein owned the lease on the World Trade Center complex.
Do you know the name of the fire marshal he was talking to?
No, I don't. But my question is, would the fire marshal have exclusive information about those buildings either being designed with explosives for self-destruction or retrofitted with explosives for self-destruction? And the reason I ask that is because those buildings had very sensitive information in them. They had all the Enron records, CIA, FBI, banking headquarters. I would assume that if I was a tenant in that building and I had sensitive documents that might even be a matter of national security, I might like to be in a building that could be destroyed at the push of a button. So it sounds like, with that hypothesis, it sounds like the fire marshal had information about that possibility.
I'd
I'll
also
find
like to
out
add that there was a
tomorrow.
countdown. There was a
There
countdown.
was a countdown
There was a 10,
that came
9,
across
8,
the
7.
emergency responders.
I know
radios. I
fire
think it was a
marshals.
Red Cross.
I know fire marshals
no,
very
no.
well who work that day, and I will call up Phil tomorrow
Okay.
and ask him, say, oh, I met a bunch of people, and I will ask Phil about that.
Yeah.
And Phil is retired and very honest. His father was a minister, and Phil would say, yes or no, something I never thought of.
Good. Great. And you got Steve's card there?
I got his card, and I got photos and books and newspapers, and
Great.
so, very interesting,
It is.
very interesting. I have questions to ask people to call up tomorrow and say,
Yeah.
whoa, and I'll find out interesting things.
If my phone will do it, can I show you a video real quick?
Sure.
It's gonna play. Do you know these guys?
I don't know. If I change my glasses, I might be able to tell.
Good stuff, somebody.
I got it, I'll get it.
Okay, awesome. If this thing will do it, my battery's gonna do.
This is the captain, this is 7 Truck. So I met them, I was there that night. So if I called him up, he would know who I was. I could explain who I was, and he would know me. But that was the firehouse.
That was him?
Yeah.
Listen,
Yes, I heard this in the movie. So I met them all that night. So he's retired now, he was in the movie on 9/11. They interviewed him. Okay.
that's awesome.
That's who he is.
That's just awesome to meet you.
And
You know,
I'm a fat guy who made spaghetti. I made a nice sauce. I got a lot of compliments. I made a nice sauce.
well, thank you for doing what you did. And thank you for being there.
It was what I could do. You know how some people have different talents?
Yes, sir.
That's what I could do best.
That's awesome.
That's what I did.